Welcome back. Welcome back to the Unboxing Judaism podcast. Rabbi Nagel, it's so wonderful to be back here.
Yes, I love doing this with you, so it's awesome. Glad we worked it out.
And Mazel Tov on the recent celebration of the Siyum HaShas, of the conclusion of the entire Talmud, 2,711 folios of Talmud. It's an unbelievable accomplishment. So Mazel Tov, and it was a beautiful, beautiful event. So
send it out so let people could see.
It's on YouTube. We posted it, the entire event, all 3+ hours of footage.
Amazing.
All the speeches, all the music, the dancing. It was just incredible. So one of the things that are noticeable when we go to such an event is that we see us dancing, see the Jewish people dancing with the Torah. And as a people that are dancing with the Torah, there's a certain feeling of uniqueness, that we are an Am Segula, we're a chosen nation, Am Nivchar. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. You know, we're the only people that go by the title of the chosen people. Wherever I go in Texas, you have people, oh, you're Jewish? Yeah, you know, you're the chosen people, the God's people. We pray for you. And they say, it's a fairly common thing that you find in Texas. So I want to talk to our various, population of listeners, how to feel about it as an individual who is a Jewish person and is part of the chosen people, and how to also have that perspective in balance with the nations of the world. So,
okay, so let's delve right into it. So first of all, it's something that a lot of Jews, in particular, get very uncomfortable with. It's like, well, why are we so high on ourselves? Why do we think about ourselves? We're just human beings like anybody else. And it's really something that people who don't really understand this principle turn them off quite a bit. This is Jewish people. Not to mention, we live here in the South, so there's people who, when they say chosen, they don't mean it in a nice way. But you go somewhere else, chosen means that it's an anger, it's not a good thing, and it's a jealousy, and it's like, who do they think? And that's really, to me, a big so for us, it's important to have an answer for ourselves and an answer for the Gentiles as well, who would be jealous or like, kind of business, and that's why do you think you're,
why do you think you're special?
You're better than thou, right? And and that's it's like, and also isn't it true that we're supposed to value humility and not be high on ourselves? That's something that's a very important quality, and so why isn't that? Why is this not a contradiction to that, basically? So that's part of the question that we really need to grapple with. So
yeah, I always tell my students in our classes is that we're only the chosen people because we chose God. The Medrash tells us, the famous Medrash, that all the nations of the world had prophets. Every single nation had a prophet that was equal to or greater than Moshe. At the end of the day, they all fell short of their responsibilities, which we know part of our foundational principles of faith is that there was no prophet like Moshe. That's because he took his responsibility seriously. But Bilam, our sages tell us,
had a greater vision.
He had greater powers than Moshe, but he neglected them. But each one of those prophets got the memo from God asking, do you want to receive the Torah? Do your people want to receive the Torah? And the Midrash goes on to tell us that every nation asked what's in it, and they said, thou shalt not steal. Nope, not for us. Thou shalt not perform adultery. That's not for us. Thou shalt not covet. That's not for us. Thou shalt not murder. No, not for us. Until the Jewish people accepted the Torah. And they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We're going to do it. We're in. We're locked into this relationship. And then we'll hear later the rules. Means it's like a couple who gets engaged. The girl doesn't say, well, I'll get engaged, but I want to know what this entails first. No. I'm in because there's a relationship here that I'm valuing and I'm excited about, and whatever life brings, we'll do it then. And that's the Jewish people. Their relationship with God is like, we're na'aseh. We're no limits. Nishma later. We'll hear later what is involved in this relationship.
there's a trust that what God gives us is something that we're going to be excited to receive, because we know God is out for our benefit and wants what's best for us. And that's it. And we don't need to ask any questions. Well, what's in it? I'm not sure whether I'm interested. It has nothing to do with that. There's a lot in it that isn't easy, but we understand that if God's giving it, it's something that's for our benefit. It's something that we need for we have what to gain for it. And that's exactly what it's all about. And so to me, that's part of what the whole, yes, there's a saying, I think it's like an English poet who said, "How odd of God to choose the Jews." That was the line that he said. And there was a response to that. "'Twas not odd, the Jews chose God," which basically is really what you're saying in a nutshell. And that's really what it is. It's not, yes, it's true that God has a special relationship with the Jewish people that goes back to even before the receiving of the Torah. But everyone had that chance. And everyone really still has that chance to, if they really want and hear the calling of Mila Shemelai, that anybody can really take on the Torah. That's the truth.
And the truth is that, the challenge is that the world looks at us as if we grabbed that title. But we did. We grabbed it because we saw an opportunity. And in a way, one of the things I like to say, I like to give like a little parable. Imagine my class is full with students, and one of them, I buy him a lottery ticket. It's $650 million. Happy birthday. It's your birthday this week. I wanted you to have a special birthday. He says, listen, I appreciate it very much, but my likelihood of winning is 0. So I might as well give it to the person next to me. It looks like he needs a pick-me-up. He needs some encouragement. I'm going to give it to him. He gives it to the next person. And each one is being kind and benevolent and giving it to the next person, The last one's like, I'm not going to pass it around the room again. I'll just hold on to it. Fine. If I win, I win. And he wins the $650 million lottery. What happens to the rest of the people in the room? It's my ticket. It's my ticket. It was mine. I didn't mean to give it. I was just being nice. I was just being this. Everyone... And the truth is that that's what the nations of the world are kicking themselves about. The nations of the world feel like they had it in their hand. It was in their inbox. You offered it. You offered it and you said no. The French were told no adultery. They're like, forget it. That's not for us. And the Germans were, thou shalt not murder. Forget it. It's not for us. So they did have the opportunity and they said no. They blew it. So no wonder they hate us. No wonder there's anti-Semitism. No wonder there's so much. And the Jewish people, we haven't had it easy. Nobody should think that being the chosen people means that we're it's going to be safe.
A fun life.
Yeah, the Jewish people have faced more turmoil than any nation on the history of the planet. Right? There's been no nation.
Well, thanks to its longevity.
Right. That also helps.
We just have so much history, and not an easy history. So there you go.
Definitely not. It's been quite a run, and God willing, it continues for many, 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 many generations to come of expanding the name of Hashem, which is really our bottom line. That's really what that's our number one responsibility.
What is the responsibility? Right? We're looking at it as not chosen for what. Not chosen to be, but yes, to be, but there's a responsibility attached to that.
I don't know if I told you my story from Costco. So I had an elderly man walked over to me and he saw my tzitzis and my yarmulke. So he says, "You Jewish?" I said, "Yes." So he says, "Can I touch your tzitzis?" I said, "Sure." So he goes and he holds onto my tzitzis. And while he's holding it, he says, "Do you realize your responsibility? You're the chosen people. We, the Gentiles, we look up to you to be an example of what it means to be God's people." And it was a shocking moment for me because it was like, wow, this is a huge responsibility that we have. Typical boy in yeshiva may not understand that that's a responsibility. I try to tell that to my children, by the way, every time we go someplace. We went for Hanukkah, we went away for a couple of days. I said, guys, before we left the car, I said, guys, remember, the world is looking at us, you, the little children who are going to yeshiva, to going to cheder. The people are looking at how you behave because you're the Jewish people. The way you behave, how courteous you are, how friendly you are, how respectful you are. You see an elderly person, stand up, give them a seat. You know why? Because it says it in our Torah. It's a verse in our Torah that teaches us these morals, these values, these ethics. There are certain things that we do not because it's just a nice thing to do. The Torah tells us to do this. And being a part of the Jewish people, we need to represent what it means to be God's people. And it's a big responsibility.
That's look. There's an expression in the Talmud that talks about that. The goal really is that the Shem Shamayim should be misahev al yodcha. That people will look and they'll see you and they'll see the way you behave, and they will love Hashem because this is the way He's teaching His children how to behave. That's really what it is.
Shem Hashem nikra lecha, because the name of Hashem, when you look at the person, you see this is a godly person, and obviously that's our aspiration, which is why we have so many mitzvahs. We have so many mitzvahs that each mitzvah is a vehicle through which we bring Hashem into our lives. Right? Growing up in yeshiva, that's not the way we typically thought of a mitzvah.
It's so interesting because so many people who grew up religious, they miss the memo on this because they just feel that it's like, it's not fair. All these, Gentiles can run around and be wild and they have fun, and I have to behave, and I can't do this, and I'm in the mall, and I can't do this, I can't do that, and they just feel that it's it's not fair. It's not fair. Why can't I have the same fun and be as free? And they don't recognize that it should be. It's such a point of pride. Look at that. You represent God. Think about it for a second. You're like, that's such a special thing. And I think that's something that needs to be really brought home to our own children. That pride, the feeling of like, yes, I'm proud that I'm Jewish. I'm proud. I'm not hiding it. I think that one of my favorite customs that was established years and years, thousands of years ago, is, that the men wear a yarmulke on their head. And it's like something that it shows the world. It's something that we're proud that we're Jewish. I'm not ashamed, not embarrassed. I'm doing something that shows who I am. I'm not hiding it. I'm not trying to hide it. Yeah. And there
used to be a custom where people who are Torah observant wear a yarmulke in public, but there were many people who were religious Torah observant Jews who didn't wear yarmulkes in business.
At work.
At work they didn't. And there's an individual that we know here in Houston that made an announcement, I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago, to his company. It's a big company. He made an announcement that he used to think that not wearing a yarmulke he says, but my responsibility as a Jew is to represent God. And therefore, from today on, I'm going to be wearing my yarmulke every day to work. And all of his non-Jewish workers, so that they understand, I'm a Jew, I'm proud of it, I'm not going to hide it, I'm not going to put it in my pocket when I'm in public. I'm going to walk around representing my Judaism. And I think that that's an unbelievably prideful thing. I think it's something for us to also recognize and to hopefully bring to the attention of our children. People are looking at us. You have a responsibility.
And don't fool yourself. I mean, the truth is, it doesn't take a genius to spot a Jew. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay,
you're saying putting a Yankee cap doesn't camouflage it?
Doesn't there's a story about a certain Hasidic Jew, a brilliant guy, went to Harvard Law, and he got hired by a very significant law firm. This was back in the 80s, and he was asked, "Are you going to wear your yarmulke to work?" Because that was like a thing that wasn't done. And so he took off his yarmulke with his curly pants and long beard. He said, "Do I look any less Jewish without it? What's the point? What am I trying to hide exactly?" So exactly. I mean, the point being, though, is to me, it's such an important thing. Like, sure, you wish that you could do certain things, but you remember that you have a yarmulke on your head. That reminds us that we have God over our heads. And yes, it matters what we do, and we can't forget that. And it's a responsibility that's a 24/7 responsibility, it really is. And but I don't want to have to be, what if I want to cut off somebody? I guess you shouldn't do that, you know what I mean? Like I remember
it's
some guy used to like put his yarmulke down every time he was like
being aggressive on the road.
Aggressive on the road. I was like, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be aggressive on the road.
Yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to have a magnet of your child's yeshiva on the back of your
right.
car when you're.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Point being is that it's besides for the fact that it's a tremendous responsibility, it should be something that we should be extremely proud of, and we should never God forbid let the words leave our mouths that it's hard to be Jewish. That's not the point. We're so happy and so proud of who we are. Yes. And it's amazing that sometimes it takes the Gentile in Costco to remind us of that.
That's right.
It's scary. Like, why don't I know that myself? Why didn't I feel that the same way he felt it? And that's a tremendous, wake up call for us to think about it in that way. That it matters how I behave.
It's that wake up call. That you suddenly realize I have a responsibility. But what do we say to the nations of the world? People come here a lot to convert. In our community, we have many, many people who have either converted or in the process or have interest in conversion. And the first thing I tell them is why? Why would you accept upon yourself 613 commandments when you can be sufficient with 7? Right? The nations of the world can get their place in heaven. We're the only nation that says that the nations of the world also have a place in heaven. Right. You don't have to believe in Judaism and act in a way of with the commandments.
Keep all the commandments.
Yeah, in order to get your place in the world to come, right? You could do that just with your 7 Noahide laws. So they don't need, and it's an important thing, is that someone does not need to be Jewish to have a place in the world to come.
That's an amazing. Right. I think it's a unique thing about Judaism. It really is amazingly unique that it's not my way or the highway, which is what basically all the other religions are like. This is your ticket. Without it, you don't have no go. You know what I mean? It's like an all or nothing. Either you're in or you're out. It's not like that by Jewish belief. It's like you can be a good person whoever you are, and if you follow the basic principles of what it means to be a good person, which is encapsulated in the 7 Noahide laws, then you have a place.
You have a place too. So there's no need. Then people ask me why are they pushing me away from the Bet Din? Why are they trying to make me not convert? Don't you want members? We're not a numbers game. It's not, but it's interesting. You mentioned that we shouldn't say that it's difficult to be Jewish. It's an amazing thing that Reb Moshe Feinstein, who was the leading rabbinic halachic decisor of the 20th century, passed away in 1986. And he said that one of the things that destroyed Jewry in America is the phrase, "Es ist schwer zu sein Yid." It's difficult to be a Jew. And understandably, there were many Jews who came in the early 1900s or the mid 1900s and weren't able to get a job because every Shabbos,
every week they lost their job.
Every week they lost their job, so they never had a steady job. And the next Sunday, they had to go to get a new job. And that coming Sunday, they'd get another pink slip. There's someone who told me that their grandfather would have all their pink slips in their sukkah as their decoration of all of the companies that fired them.
We cannot imagine that challenge. We cannot imagine the challenge. It's like, that's why it's very we was like, how'd they do that? But we cannot judge somebody who went through that difficulty. It's the challenge that was only happened in that time. Didn't happen to us. You know what I mean? We don't have that. We live in a situation now where there's you have a better chance of getting a job if you're a religious Jew. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a different world.
But they still don't count us as minorities.
No, not in that sense. No, getting into a higher college. Sorry, you're not. I got news for you. You're not a minority. And not in Harvard. You're not a minority. You're well overrepresented.
Yeah. So that culture of it's difficult to be a Jew is a very, very damaging one for the
harmful.
Jewish people. On the contrary, we should be saying it's geschmack to be a Yid. Right. It's awesome to be a Jew. It's fun and it's exciting. It's a delight.
It's meaningful, and we are always searching for meaning. And I think that's part of what we don't realize how much our happiness is connected to meaningfulness. Having
how privileged
meaning.
we are to
Right, to have every single thing, every minute of our day be meaningful, to have significance. That's the beauty. That's the something. So yes, the awesome responsibility that every second I have to think about a lot of things. What am I going to do? What I'm not going to do? But that makes it all meaningful.
You know, a friend of mine told me, he lives in LA and he's a big executive for a pretty significant company. I'm not going to mention the name, but great person. He was here in Houston. We visited and we talked. And he said that he was sitting with a bunch of friends and they were talking about their favorite vacations. And everyone was talking about their favorite spots. And he likes to go here and this guy likes to go there. He says, my favorite vacation, I go on a cruise with my wife and kids. Like this, I don't have internet service. I don't have my phone. I don't have anything, no distraction. And I love this vacation so much that I take this vacation 52 times a year. And it's only a 25-hour cruise. As soon as that ship departs the dock, that's it. You're done. Whatever you have, you have. Whatever you don't, you don't. Like, really, where do you go? You have 25 hours and you do this 52 times a year? He says, yeah, it's Shabbos. He says, Shabbos is like going on a cruise. No, whatever food you have on the ship is what you're going to have.
You're completely disconnected from the
and the
rest
world
of the
is so excited about Thanksgiving, and people are preparing. What are they going to talk with their family? Are they going to talk politics? They're going to talk this. They're preparing their menu, and everything is planned. And that's our Shabbos. We have that every single week. The greatest gift in the entire universe, right? Hashem says this. Matana Tova, the greatest gift I have. Gnuza bebeis gnazai, Shabbos Shema. It's Shabbos. We have that as part of it. Our it's growing up as a Shomer Shabbos Jew, someone who grew up with Shabbos. It's hard to sometimes appreciate the awesomeness of it, but that we can sit with our family without any interruptions of phone calls, without any emails.
This is like a classic example of like where less is more. Like people don't realize that. The less technology, the less distractions, the less ability to go all over the place is so much more. It opens up what's in front of you that you never even take time to see. Your children, your wife, your community. This is what it is. It's like, and that's what Shabbos is. That's why it's such a special gift. It cuts out all the extraneous things and lets us focus on the most important things in life. Where we have an opportunity to pray more. We have a community that we connect with. We have
talk to our
good
neighbors,
times
to our
together.
friends.
Right. It's an unbelievable thing. And that's the thing. By cutting out all this noise that we have in this world, now it's such a noisy world. We have so many distractions all over the place. This is, again, that's just one example of 613 of opportunities. Their responsibilities, of course, but their opportunities for amazing gift in this world.
I would say that another part of our responsibility as a Jewish person, as being the chosen people, is to, part of our goal in this world, we say this at the end of every single davening, we say, Aleinu l'shabeach Adonai kol, is to give praise to the master of everything, and to bring that to the consciousness of the world. On that day, the coming of Messiah will be a time where the entire world sees what we experience. But that's our job. Our job is to go, not to proselytize, not to convert the world, but to bring the recognition of Hashem to the entire world. It's like, I remember walking with my grandfather. My grandfather was a very, very holy rabbi. For those of you viewers and listeners who don't know that, he was a very, very prominent rabbi. And when we lived in Brooklyn, before we were neighbors in Monsey, but when we lived in Brooklyn, so we had a lot of rough neighbors, Italians and, a lot of Puerto Ricans and African Americans who were really tough on the Jewish neighbors. And they almost terrorized us on a regular basis. But when my grandfather came to visit, and I walked with my grandfather to shul, the respect that they showed to my grandfather. They didn't know who he was, but they saw this is a godly person. There's something different. To me, they knocked off my yarmulke and they would beat us. But when they saw when they saw someone who was holy, someone who was dignified, someone who was, he looked like he had godliness on him. You know, and that's our aspiration, is to be someone who is godly. And they stopped and they walked to the side and they said hello and good morning. It was like with a bow and a nod. It's like it was amazing. It was an amazing thing.
Wow.
That's something which is, you know, I think should be, at least for all of us, an aspiration, something that we should aspire to attain such a level where it's Nikra Alecha, Kishem Hashem Nikra Alecha. You just look at God's people and you should be able to see godliness.
Well, you have to live it. That's how it works. That's the secret. You really live it. You really have all the characteristics that God put in the Torah that we need to inculcate in ourselves, and that's what I think is the secret. I wanna point out something, because you mentioned that in what we say in Aleinu, how we need to be a light into the nations. Really, is what you're saying. It's the other part of what it says, and that the nations should see that, and everyone will recognize that. So people have to realize that there's actually a mistake that people make on this. They say, well, if the whole goal is what the nations are going to see, so then why do we have to have our own set of laws? Why do we have to do all these extra mitzvahs? If the goal is that they should be able to see what ethical behavior is, so let's just do the ethical stuff, and the dogma we can leave aside. And this was what reforms Judaism. That's how it was, the principles that it was founded on. That's why they spent so much time in Navi studying the Nach, because these are verses from Navi, because they accentuated
Prophets.
that to what the prophet said, and left aside all the laws that are written in the Torah. So what I want to say is that the mistake is a profound mistake, because living the way we live for ourselves, by keeping all the commandments and showing that's what creates a vision of being a godly nation. If you are living as a Gentile and just trying to be ethical, I got news for you. They look at you as just straight competition. You're honing in on their business. You're trying to be part of their world. And that is a negative. It's not going to work. What really works, what really will make the biggest impression, is when we keep all the laws for ourselves that they know is very difficult to keep, and they're seeing us keep it. That's really what's going to make the difference for the Gentile, and say, wow, this is, otherwise it's like, well, I could behave that way. Why are the Jews special if they're just doing the same things? You know what I mean? They're not doing anything, any higher calling. And that's really what we have to recognize, is that it's exactly all those extra mitzvahs that are not only the ethical ones, but also the ethical ones, that make a big difference in making the impression on the nations of the world and spreading God's light to the world.
So in conclusion, what we're not saying is that, hey, Jew, you feel like you're so special. Perhaps you might feel, and every person should feel as an individual, that they're so special. But no, our responsibility is not to gloat, look at me, I'm part of the chosen people. Our responsibility is to realize that it comes with a bag of rules and regulations and responsibilities that require us to do so much more. It's not bragging rights. It's a big undertaking. As a Jewish person, you're obligated to so much more. It's not just like, oh, I'm just like my neighbors, I'm just like my friends, I'm like everybody else. No, your job is to do different and do better. And you're held to a higher standard. They have 7 commandments. You have 613 commandments. You have to be at such a higher level. And that's our responsibility.
Yeah, it's really, but it's not, like you said, it's something that we should be proud of. And it's a gift. All of them are gifts. All the extra responsibilities that we have are gifts. They're not chores.
They're not burdens.
They're not burdens. They're not, right. We need to be proud of those Each and every one of those 613 commandments. The more you study them, the more you learn about the depth and meaning in them, the more exhilarating it is to perform them, and the more it affects how we behave in all areas of life. And like you say, we can aspire to be like your grandfather in the sense that it will be apparent to all that this is a godly individual. That's the goal.
I like to tell over that it's not 613 commandments. It's 613 opportunities. Each mitzvah is an opportunity of another layer of closeness. If you look at we have, I'm going to plug one of my other podcasts, the Everyday Judaism podcast, where we're going through halacha, one chapter at a time, and we're explaining it down to the base. The number of laws that we have in Judaism is just like,
it's astounding.
It's unbelievable. The number of the details. It's unbelievable.
It's such
and
a beautiful.
Each one is part of a mitzvah that brings us closer. Oh, you think Hashem cares if I say it like this or I say it like that? You're right, Hashem doesn't care. It's giving you the opportunity to be closer to God.
Doesn't he appreciate the fact that we
he definitely does.
That we're thinking about every step that we make, every breath, every nuance.
From the minute we wake
up. Every facial expression is all part of how it's dictated from God. What's the right way to have a smile on our face, a greeting, a pleasantness about everything about us, all these things, not allowing anger to overtake us. These are things that are
It reminds me that you said even emotion of the face. There are two areas specifically that I recall in halacha that it talks about facial expressions. Number one is regarding to the laws of Lashon Hara, that if someone asks you about somebody else, even the nod of a face could say something. See, like you just twist your face. You're like, even that could be slander about someone else, and the halacha prohibits it. Even just a little curl in the face. That's number one. And the second is, it says that during davening, one shouldn't make even a motion with their face to another person to tell them, whatever. When you're talking to God, even emotion. It's like, what? Even your eyes shouldn't be roaming around. That's regarding protecting ourselves from seeing negative things, things that are immoral, things that are immodest, when we're praying, we shouldn't be looking around. We should be looking in our prayer book or closing our eyes. That's halacha. Right? It's like, what? On from the minute we wake up, how we wash our hands, every single detail of the right, left, how we tie our shoes, how we get dressed, how one bathes and how one sleeps and how one eats and how one walks. Each and every detail of life is prescribed in the Torah.
I have a morning after prayer, so we learn a little bit of halacha every morning, and we're learning details about washing the hands in the morning. And there's whole sections about what water qualifies. Is it clean water? Is it hot water? Is it cold water? All these things, it's like, wow, unbelievable. It's like to the detail, the amount of nuance that makes a difference is fascinating.
Right. And it's all part of our building. The more it gives us opportunity, the more detail-oriented we become, the closer our relationship becomes.
The more meaning there is in everything that we do.
It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing gift. Yeah, the nations of the world are definitely welcome, but we're not going out to missionize and we're not out to proselytize. Our responsibility is very clear. And, we try to be very welcoming and friendly.
Be very proud of what we do. Yeah. And again, that's what I said in the beginning, before. We try our best that the name of God should be beloved to the people. They say, wow. It's a godly nation. Amazing.
All right. My dear friends, thank you so much for listening. We look forward to hearing your feedback. And if you'd be so kind and email us at unboxing@torchweb.org. If you have any questions.
Or if you have a topic that you want us to discuss. Absolutely.
We'll be happy to. We're going to try to do these more regularly, so we appreciate your patience. It's been a busy year.
A lot going on, but thank God.
Thank you so much, and have a magnificent week ahead.